Hello, I'm alone in Finland. This is Eve Online. Welcome to all of you fantastic people that think that I'm interesting, because I don't understand it, but I am very appreciative for it. All the new subscribers and stuff like that, welcome. It's always appreciative. As I say with any videos, if you've got comments, questions, criticisms, or agreements, please post them. I quite like the engagement, and especially if you think I'm wrong about something, please put down your reasons for why you think I'm wrong. I'm more than willing to learn and stuff like this. I don't want this to just be sort of my opinion thrown out there. I want this to be something that is discussed, because if I'm wrong about something or you've got a different perspective, I'd like to hear it. Now, obviously you can possibly tell from that income and the title what I'm going to jump on today, because something very nice happened. So somebody saw my video that used to play with us in Eve. It was an old corp mate from years ago, and your man had stopped playing Eve, and he happened to come across this video. Oh, not this video, but he came across one of my videos, recognised my voice, and then restarted his Eve account and got back in touch. And then he did something very funny, and I'll get to that in a second. But we were talking a lot about what's going on, and we were talking about this sort of entire culture change, because like me, he's been out of the game, but he's been out for 12 years. So he'd stopped playing before Abyssal came in. I stopped playing before the changes to Abyssal came in, and before the changes to manufacturing. So that's why I'm kind of relearning some of this stuff at the moment. But it was kind of funny having an interesting perspective. And it turns out that we actually also share the same sort of worries about the game as well, because the player count is sort of declining. And if you look at the amount of people, Eve talks about, CCP has talked about how many people have multiple accounts. And when you look at that multiple account figure next to the player count figure, Eve's actually running at lower players, individual players, than back in 2008, 2007, which is kind of a worrying thing. And this is also why I sort of make this style of videos. I've sort of explained it before, and I'll make sure I put this in when I'm talking about this sort of thing, but I want the game to succeed. And I think a big sort of contentious point with player retention is the fact that people see videos on YouTube and the videos are inaccurate, or there is something that is sensationalized about them. And because of that sensationalization, people come into the game, have the wrong opinion of what's going to happen, don't expect the time it takes for skills, the lower amounts of income in the beginning and stuff like this, and then they just go, well, this isn't possible, and they sack it off. So, with that being said, the video that I want to jump on today with crampons and a pitchfork is, somebody made a video saying about how they made several hundred billion ISK in 2023. And right at the beginning, I want to say, it's possible. So I'm not saying that they didn't do this, and I'm not saying that it's not possible. I'm absolutely saying it is both possible, and that I think that they made this. And I actually think I know exactly how they made the money. I don't think it's the same as they describe, but there's this weird part in this, because the reason this irked me right at the beginning was there's several parts that annoyed me. The first one is the title compared to the video, because it says how I made, and then it glances over. It's like if I made a video saying, how do you make money in Eve? And then made a video where I went, first, manufacturing, second, mining, third, mission running, fourth, Abyssal. And then no other content, not explaining those parts, just said those and put a video out there. That's essentially what this is, because the guy didn't go into any depth about anything except for one thing, that it was still skimmed over as to how much money that earned the person. But when they were talking about things like manufacturing, they were like, I'm obviously not going to put this out there as to my method. Now, in my opinion, if you're not going to put out your method, then you don't say this is how I make the money. You've seen that I've put out methods multiple times, and I'll go through one very quickly that can make you an 8% profit. We take the Kurzweil blueprint that is here. We buy the Kurzweil blueprint for 50 million. You then go into Jita where you've bought the blueprint, you hit buy all on the items here. You buy at 488 million your items. Everything. Nice and simple. You then, obviously we're building in Jita, we've got 17 million buy price, so that 488 million, you add 20 million onto that, then you add the 50 million onto that, and after 3 hours, you can sell it for approximately, let's look at it right now, you can sell it for approximately 597 million and change. So you're going to make 40 million off of that. It'll take 3 hours. It's an 8% increase, right? So that's a way of making money. That's something that I've shown. That's something that's actually, I think it's a good thing to show this, because if you look at the price history, or it's better to look this way at the markets, you'll see that the price that these were being sold at was a lot higher and they've come down. And I think, although that's a pain in the arse for people that are selling these, I think that's a good thing for people that are buying them to get the price to normalise. So I don't really feel guilty about putting that number out there and screwing other people over. But back to this video. Right at the beginning, the first thing that shows up is they're talking about it, and they show up a screen with all of these figures, and they go, you see immediately, they've got trillions. So they've got trillions of ISK, and that's how they made their money. That's it, plain and simple. If you've got money, you can make more. That video, that sort of example I gave with the Cursor, you can run 10 manufacturing slots. So in 2.5 hours, instead of making 40 million, you could actually make 400 million with that same method. So there's a quick and easy way of doing it if you've got the money to put into it. And they went on in one part of this video to talk about, I want to help other players and I want to be Jesus and all of this stuff. And it's just nonsense. The only reason they made this video was to flex how much stuff they've got. But for me, that's counterintuitive, because you're putting that out to the community, and some people will go, oh, I like seeing the flex. And some newer people coming into the game will look at it and go, I can't get that. There's no way. It's just, no. Okay, next game. Because that's how quick it is. That one piece of disengagement takes seconds. Just, well, that, nah, no chance. It's too exclusive. You look at the player base, the average age of a player in EVE is of 40. It's not a young people's game, it's not a new player's game. And that's part of it, because they can't get into it that quickly. They can't they're seeing that most people have got billions, which is not true. Or it is true, but the average, what was it? It was 60 billion. There is a video out from CCP where they talk about this. Remember, you've got players that have been playing since 2003. The majority of players have got over a decade in the game. So the average being 10 billion. And some of the people at the right high end have trillions, like your man that we're talking about. So that sort of skews what you can expect. It's like going into a job and hearing, well, the average pay in this place is 60,000 a year. But you're going to start on 10,000 a year and you're going to get a 2% pay rise for the rest of your time in this. So you're never going to get to 60,000 sort of thing. That's the sort of thing that throws a lot of players off. But the rest of this video that irked me as well is because right at the beginning they said, well, it says here that I've actually made a profit of 60, but it was actually 400. You're going, and then he gave an excuse for why that is, and the excuse is nonsense. I checked. It's like, okay, that doesn't sound right. I'm distrusting of this video. So I continued watching. One of the parts that came up next was when they were talking about mining. And now, this person had said that they play 2 hours a day, only 2 hours a day, and they play every day, right? And then when they were talking about mining, they said, we started with some accounts, but then I upgraded to 10 accounts, and I was mining in 5 months. And what you can see in front of you on the screen is the majority of this ore, so over half, the majority of this ore came from that 5-month period. So me being me, I looked at that ore, I got the density of all of it, calculated basically everything that had 1,000 or 1,000,000 in front of it, so I missed out a fair chunk of the ore. But I counted up what was there. I halved it because they said the majority, so I went, okay, half. And then worked out how long in a 5-month period with 10 accounts it would take to mine that, as they said. assuming 10 accounts for the entire time. And it was 10 hours a day minimum. So if it was more than that, obviously the hours go up. So that doesn't equate. That statement is bollocks. Entirely bollocks. Somebody else is helping them with the mining, or they're mining for longer than that. There is something there that doesn't make sense. And then there was also, as you go through the video, the sort of amounts of people kind of changed and varied. They're like, oh, this is accounts, this is players. And it could have been just a sort of, they didn't put it out right there when they were talking about skill extraction versus other things. But I assumed on the maximum numbers that they gave. So that doesn't make sense. And because that doesn't make sense, I'm questioning all of it. Now, then there was a point later on in the video where they had mentioned that they don't do any reactions at all. But there was a whole load of reaction blueprints, and they said that they needed those reaction blueprints for manufacturing stuff. And I'm sat there going, well, why have you got blueprints if you're not doing it? Does that mean that somebody else is in this manufacturing cycle? Because if they are, then that's not you making that money, that's somebody else. So there's weird questions there as well. And some of this just didn't make sense. Now, to clarify this, as I said, you can make 400 billion in a year. You can make billion per hour. And one of the guys that I quite like the videos of, because he is very sort of open and honest about everything, is Aceface on YouTube, who does a lot of abyssal running. And he runs T6 abyssals, and he shows you the fits, he shows you the danger, he shows you how to do it. He talks about the problems that you could have and what to avoid and things like this. They're very educational videos, and they're quite interesting content. So it's a good thing to show all of that. But if you've made a video saying how I did this, and then that's not how you did it, or you deliberately don't explain things, like when this person was talking about manufacturing, and they said, well, I'm obviously not going to show you that. I'm like, well, then that's not how you made it. If you just say manufacturing, that's not how. That is a different thing. If you're going to explain something, you explain it in detail. They go, no, I want to save this. This is my proprietary thing. I want to keep making that money. Well, fair play, that's you. If you don't want to put that information out there, then don't put that information out there. But don't make a video pretending that you are. And don't make a video saying, oh, well, I want to help people by educating them and showing stuff. They got that in the tutorial. They know what manufacturing is. If you're going to educate them, you put more out there. You don't flash all your stuff doing the weirdest flex that I've ever seen in a computer game video and sort of going, oh, well, look at this. This is all my shiny stuff. I'm showing you this because it's going to educate you. Oh, get bent. So that is my sort of, that was a chunk of my takeaway on this. But then, and the reason that I don't think they're lying about how much they're making, although, and I also think this is why it doesn't show up correctly. I think they wanted to skip over this because they do a bit in skill extraction. Now, they've got trillions, which means they can do this easily. They've also got tens of thousands of plex. So here is the quick rundown on skill extraction. If we go into the market, a skill extractor sells for 800 and something million. At the moment, it's 872 million. Now, if you've got enough plex, then you can buy skill extractors. So if you've got enough ISK, i.e. you've got over 1 trillion in game, you can convert it to plex for 5 million per plex. You can then spend 5,600 or 7,000, depending on if you've got a good deal, and they said they got it when there was a good deal on, and you can buy the skill extractors. And when you get the good skill extractors, you can then extract from a character. You can keep that character plexed because of how much money you've got, and you can sell them. So how does this actually work? Well, if you've got, what was the one just there? It was 5,600 plex, which is 5 million per plex. So that works out to 28 billion. If you take 28 billion, you convert that into 50 skill extractors. You extract skills from characters that you've got and then sell that. That is 43 billion 600 million. So you have an increase. Well, what are we at? Maths. So roughly that's in the region of about 60% increase in money. You're doubling the money just to put it in. And obviously the profit that you pull out from the skill extractors can go back in. And the bottleneck in that entire process is how many skills you've got in the characters. You're pulling out 500,000 in skills every time. So if you've got 50 skill extractors, you need to extract 48 million in skills. So if you've got, say, what was it? They actually said something around the realm of 4 accounts and 12 characters. But if you've got that, then you need to pull out, approximately 4 million per character in skills, which is approximately 4 months training time. Is that right? 4 months? Yeah, 4 months. It's around about $1 million a month. So if you've got 4 characters, if you've got 12 characters that you can harvest every, every 4 months, so that's 3 times a year, you can make approximately 60 million-ish, which is interesting because that 60 billion, sorry, but that 60 billion is actually exactly the number that was on how much they had earned. So it's very interesting that they talked about all of these different things, but one thing that they mentioned actually accounts for the exact number that's shown. So that's why I think there's a bit of a disconnect there, and essentially a bit of horseshit going on where they're going, look at all of my stuff, and they're not giving accurate reasons. They're going, these are some of the things, but they're not actually describing them. And then when they are sort of showing the evidence doesn't add up. And there's some nonsense excuses as to why in some cases. Contracts aren't included. No, every transaction is included, even earnings off of stuff. So that's another one of the ones that's come out there. But then jumping back to my friend, this is where it gets funny. Because they said to us how much they had spent. They bought ISK, and they bought a lot of ISK. And I discovered, after talking to them, I had never thought about this, because I'd never thought about this in these quantities before. And I was like, how much would it cost to get 400 billion in ISK immediately if you're buying and selling plex? So, I just bollocks my thing. So if you got 400 billion, you divide that by 5 million, we have 80,000 plex. 80,000 individual plex. So you divide that by 500, which is how many you need. So you need 160. Now, plex at some deals can bring it as low as 11 euros per deal. Because you've got reduced rates for buying in bulk, and you've got reduced rates for for seasonal offers and stuff like this. So 160 purchases of plex times 11 euros is 1,760 euros to buy all of this. Or at full price, for me, it's about 20 euros a plex, I think. It's 3,200 quid. So, if you wanted to make 400 billion in 30 seconds, you just need to burn a couple of months' wages. And that's the sort of difference. When somebody's going out there and going, I can do this, and just sort of flexing for the sake of flexing and detracting from what some people are doing. Because if you're a miner that is getting a couple of million at the first thing, you're going to look at that figure that you saw before you came in to even go, oh, well, crap, I'm never making that. Okay, on to the next game. Whereas for me personally, I still remember my first mining and refining run in the game. I was using a hoarder at the time. I had mined with the hoarder until it was full. I took it back to the station and refined, and then I took it out and ended up with I ended up with the selling for about 2.5 million, I think it was. And I was so excited that I made my first million. And that was kind of cool, and that got us into playing for a little bit longer, and then the rewards got better and got more interesting. But that wouldn't exist or couldn't exist for somebody who's seen hundreds of billions, because they're like, oh, this is nothing. So that's my sort of rant on this and why it's irritating me. And just in general, because these are the videos that are being promoted. I've got a brand new account sat here on YouTube, and I'm going for a lot of the newbie stuff. So I'm looking at new tutorials and things for Eve and actively searching these things, and it's still throwing up, you can make these hundreds of billions, because these are the clickbait ones that are pulling in the views. These are the stuff. And I get that some people are out there saying, oh, some stuff isn't accurate because time has gone over. But no, a lot of that doesn't add up. Some of it is still sort of, this method doesn't work. And you're like, it does still work. It's still there in game, but it was never as accurate as was portrayed. So that's sort of what gets me, is these little disconnects, or in some cases just flagrant stuff like this, going, look, this is all shiny. No, none of your numbers add up. So I wanted to put that out there as another sort of, if you're watching this and you're a new player, don't be disheartened by that stuff, and don't worry about the ISK. Yes, there are ways of making little bits, but the people that have these hundreds of billions are either people that have been playing for so long, in some cases longer than some of the new players have been alive, or it's players that are actually purchasing it. That number that I put up, the 1,700, was less money than a mate of mine just spent on Eve. So a good sort of representation of this is one of the statistics that CCP put up a couple of years back, where they showed that the average wealth of an individual player, the average out of all of the players, is around about, took me a minute to find that. So if you have a look if you want to see this data, it's on the EVE Online YouTube page, EVE Online FanFest 2023, 20 years of Capsule data, Capsulaire data. The average amount of money that any Capsulaire has is 8.9 billion. And that is a figure that is adjusted across multiple accounts. So people that have multiple accounts, they took that into account. Between sort of counting email addresses and IPs and stuff like this, they sort of loaded it all together. Right, this is how much people have got, and the average person has 8.9 billion. So when you're seeing somebody talking about how they made 400 billion in a year, that figure on its own is in the top 1% of what people have, not just what people can make. So there is a massive sort of adjustment. But let's go back to that 8.9 billion. Let's call it 9 billion for argument's sake. If you have 9 billion, or if you want to make 9 billion in a year, and you want to get to the point where you are the average of what people have, as sort of the most common space rich, remember, some accounts are 20 years old. If you want to get there, then what it would take you is simple. If you take 9 billion and divide it by every day of the month, every day of the year, 9 divided by 365 works out to 24,600,000 and something. So to get to that figure, that 24 million figure, nice and simple, if you want to play every day, to get to that figure, if you want to make what the average person has, not just what they make, that is what they have, just under 9 billion in total assets. If you want to get to that figure in 1 year, you need to make 25 million a day. So the best way of doing that is to run missions. But almost any activity would pay in that variety if you're doing it at the higher end. If you've seen any of my previous videos, gas huffing pays way more than that. It takes a bit of time to scan down, but you're making such a large amount in sort of smaller areas. But I was talking about high sec gas huffing. If you go low sec gas huffing, you increase the danger. But when you take things like our little ventures down there, then your danger is almost nothing, because losing a venture is a couple of million compared to how much you can pull in a one hit. If you are mission running, level 4 missions, without doing burners, you will make more than 25 million an hour. Some particular missions, I'm thinking the extravaganza missions, pay over 25 million per mission, and they can be running about 20 minutes, 25 minutes for somebody running with a, what's the name of it? With a battleship, just a standard Raven. You can run them in about 25 to 28 minutes, I think, and you'll make 25 million. So if you do one of those a day, half an hour a day, you'll make that amount of money. Abyssal space pays a lot more. If you're doing T3 abyssals, you'll be making around about 70 million per hour. So 70 million every 3 trips into abyssal on a T3. That's a way of making that money. You just keep saving it. And for abyssals, I would say that the T3 are more of the safer versions. I've seen multiple fits that can run T3s on alpha. So there is the way of doing it and making that sort of level of money. So it's not much to get to that average amount, but it is a bit of time and expense to put into it. But that is something that's very important for people to know, that when you see these hundreds of billions, that's not what the majority of people's experience is. In fact, that's less than 1% of what the people's wealth is. Not just per year, but total wealth. So this is why it irked me, why I put out this video. I wanted to just sort of explain some of these things. The next video coming out after this is also a little bit of an explanation, although it's not shitting on everybody. I wanted to do a bit of a breakdown of gate camps and things like this. I've sort of filmed it, but I just couldn't get to do it. I was going to edit it all today, but then I saw this video and just was shaking with apoplectic indifference. So thanks for watching. Again, as always, if you've got comments, questions, queries, criticisms, anything like that, put them down. If you've got ideas for other things that you'd like to see or stuff like that, jot it down in the comments. I'll read absolutely everything that you put down there, providing it gets shown to me. Some comments went missing at one point. Not sure if somebody deleted them or something. But show us what you can, tell us what you can. I would like this to be more of a conversation than just me putting out information. And especially, in fact, most importantly, if you disagree with this and you've got reasoning why you disagree with this, put that down. I love the information. I love the feedback. I'm more than happy to get this. As you've seen one of my videos that I corrected this because of feedback, because somebody went, actually, there's a little bit that you don't know about this. I was like, that's good to know. It's very good to know, because what I had been told by CCP was not accurate, or it left out a way that was bannable. So I'm very happy with the comments and things like that, especially because I was just about to start doing something where I was using an alpha as a hauler while I was running my other accounts, and that would have been dangerous. So good times and good stuff. I love the feedback. All of the new people that have subscribed, thank you. It's nice to know that people find this interesting. And again, ideas, comments, stuff like that. Thanks for your time. Thanks for your views. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.